In this video, I will review a few of the concepts that you're supposed to learn in statistics in your Sec 3 program. So first, you can go and get the files, the notes from Statistic 1, Statistic 2. I divided it in two parts just to make it easier for my regular class. But for summer school, you can look at them all together. You can check the notes and come back to class, ask your questions. If there's anything you want me to review, I'm not going to go over everything, but if you have specific question, make sure you come back to class and ask me. Few questions for you to think of. What's the difference between population and sample? So usually the population, if we're talking about the Quebec population, for example, and I now want to know what music they're listening to, the population would be the province, the people in the province of Quebec. And if I want to take a sample, I would take just something smaller that would represent the Quebec area, the province. There's different ways you can take your samples. If, for example, I'm going to Quebec City and I'm just asking people there, my sample would not be representative of everybody in the whole province. So you can see different methods of sampling. What's the stratified sampling method that you can go check in the notes? It's the one that you're going to have to work with probably most often because that's the most representative one. And also you need to be able to list sources of bias. So what can make your sample be wrong? So you can go and check that out in the notes. Then we're going to do some calculations. You're going to have to be able to work out with mode, which is the most frequently occurring value, the median, which divides the set in two subsets containing the same number of data. I'm going to show you an example in a minute. The mean is the same as the average. So for that, if you know what the average is, it's the same thing. And I think you're good with average because you want to calculate your mark most of the time, and you're good with average, right? Okay, so, and the range is the difference between the largest and the smallest data. So that's just a quick calculation. You should be okay to remember that one. It's an easy one. So the median is the one we're going to work most with because we're going to need it later for the Box-and-Whisker plot. It divides a set into two subsets containing the same number of data. So for example, if you have an odd number of data, so if you have, for example, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, and 15. So if I'm counting the number of data, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I want to split it in two equal parts, I'm going to take the value that's exactly in the middle. So the median would be 7 because that is the value that divides in two equal parts. Okay, so that's pretty basic. That's the definition. Okay, but what if you have an even number? You have an even number of data. Okay, so for example here, if I have 12, 14, 15, 17, 21, and 22. If I count my data, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Really, the middle would be here, but there's no data here. So what do you have to do when there's no data? You're going to have to calculate the average of the two on each side. So you're going to have to do 15 plus 17, and then you're going to have to divide that by 2 to find the average, right? So if I calculate this, it's going to give me 32 divided by 2. That's 16. So you realize here, okay, that 16 is not the data in your set. So sometimes the median will be a data, sometimes it will not be a data, and that's normal. Okay? So for example, if they give you a set of number and they want you to find the mode, the median, the mean, and the range. So now you can pause the video if you want, try it by yourself, and after come back to check if your answer is correct. Okay, so the mode is the value that is occurring most. So if you look at all the numbers, you see that 4 is repeated twice, right? Sorry, not twice, 3 times. So that means your mode would be 4 because it's the one that appears more often. The median we have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 data. Okay, so that means we're going to need to take the one in the middle, which is this one, because if I take this as my median, then I have 4 on each side. So my median would be 6. To find the mean, what we have to do, we need to add, then divide by the number of data. Okay, so we're going to have to do 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10. And after that, all of this, we're going to have to divide it by, and I told you we had 9 data. So if we do this, we should get 6.3, and the 3 is repeating. So that's important. You put your line on the top because 3 is repeating. And finally, the range is the difference between the highest value and the lower value. So your range would be 6. Okay, so that's when you get your data presented like this. Make sure that your data are in alphabetical, not in numerical order, in increasing order. Data have to be in order, right? If you want to find the middle one, they have to be in order. That's really important. What if you have a table like this? Okay, see here, it says between 0 and 10. So here I see between 0 and 10. And frequency means that there's 23 people. There's 23 people between 0 and 10. There's 12 people between 10 and 20. There's 36 between 30. Okay, and you see that. So if I'm looking for the mode, what would be the mode? Is the one that's repeating most. If you look at the data, you see that there's 36 people here between 20 and 30. So what we're going to do is we're going to write 25. To find the median, we're going to have to add to figure out how many data do we have in total. So what we're going to do, we're going to add them up. If we do 23 plus 12 plus 36 plus 9, so take your calculator, it should add up to 80. So that means that half of 80 is 40. So if we divide it in 2 equal parts, we should have 40 on the first part and 40 on the second part. So where is the median going to fall? It's going to fall somewhere. 23 plus 12, that's 35. So it's going to fall somewhere in this category. So also for the median, we're going to write median is equal to 25. We're taking halfway between 20 and 30. To find the mean, what we're going to do is we're going to need to add all the numbers, but here we have 23 people that are between 0 and 10. So we're going to use midway. 5 times 23 plus midway between 10 and 20, that's 15 times 12 plus 25 times 36 plus 35 times 9. And all of that we need to divide by the number of data, which is 80. So that's going to be a big calculation. Make sure you do it right on your calculator. So you should find that your mean is equal to, hold on, it's equal to 18.875. And the last one they're asking you to find is the range. So the range is the difference between the highest and the lowest. So the range here is 40. You might have to do the same thing but with the diagram. So if you have to do it with the diagram, it's the same thing as what we just did. So I suggest that you draw a table to put your result in. Okay, and so in your table here you're gonna have 2 columns. Here is going to be the number of telephones. I'm just going to put it smaller a bit. Okay, number of telephones. And here is going to be the frequency. Okay, so, and then you can fill the table with this. Okay, so we have 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we have people have one telephone, there's 2 people here. If they have 2 telephones, I'm looking at the number of telephones, and then after I'm looking at the frequency. 2 telephones is 5, 3 telephone is 6, 4 telephones is 5, and 5 telephone is 3. So when it's going to be time to do the mean or the average, okay, what I'm going to do is I have 2 people that took 1 as their answer, so that's going to give me 2 here. Here I have 5 people who have 2 telephones, so that's 10. 2 times 5 is 10. And here I have 3 times 6, so that's 18. And here I have 20. And here I have 15. So after that, I'm going to add all of this up here to get my total, which is 65. How many people do we have all together? We need to add all the frequency. We should get 21. So to find the average, we're going to have to do 65 divided by 21. Average is 65 divided by 21, which is equal to 3.09 dot dot dot. Oh, sorry, 95. Okay, so that's our average. If we want to find the mode is the most frequent data, so that's 3. The range is the difference between the maximum and the minimum, that's 4. And the last one is the median. So the median is the one that would divide in 2 equal parts. So if we take our 21, we have 21 data. Okay, imagine you have 21 data here. You want to split in the middle, so that means you're going to have 10 data here, 10 data here, and the 11th data would be the one that you would want for your median. So where is the 11th data? If you start counting here, you start 2 plus 5 is 7. So the median is going to fall in this category. So our median is going to be 3. The weighted mean is when you have, probably when you calculate your mark, right? So ND, for example, if he wants to calculate his mark, what he has to do, homework 1 counts for 10%. So here, see, homework 1 counts for 10%. He got 75%. So when you're going to calculate here for ND, you're going to write 10% times 75 plus the second one is 20%, but he got 70 on that one. The next one is 10% and he got 85. The next one is 20% and he got 75. And finally, the last one is 40% and he got 80. So if you calculate all of that, okay, when you do that on your calculator, if you have the percentage button, you can use it. If not, you can turn it into decimals. 10% is the same as 10 over 100 or 0.10 plus 0.20 times 70 and so on. So you can take your calculator, try it, pause the video, and then after come back and check if you got the right answer. So you should have 77% as the result for ND. Take a second, pause the video, and try it for Julie to see if you can figure out how to do it for Julie. I'm going to write it down, and then we'll see. So if we do the same thing for Julie, we realize that we're not looking for the final mark for her. We're looking for X. We're looking for the mark here of exam 3. So what we're going to do is we know our final mark. We know our final mark is 81, sorry. So 81 has to be equal to this, 0.10 times 70 plus 0.20 times 75 plus 0.10 times 90 plus 0.2 times 70 plus 0.4x. So we're going to be looking for x. So what do you think we need to do to figure out x? Well, if you look at what we have, all of this is just a big number. So let's take our calculator and calculate that. So if you're adding all the numbers together, you should get 45. And now we're looking for x. So what do we do when we want to find x? We need to get rid of the 45 here. So we're going to send it on the other side. We're going to minus 45 on each side. So now we should have 0.40x. And if we want to find our x, 81 minus 45, that's 36, is equal to 0.40x. To find our x, we just have to divide by 0.40 on each side. And then we can find our x. Okay, make sure that you do your division in the right way because we want to get rid of the 40 here. So we want to do 36 divided by 0.40. And you should get 90 is equal to x. So that's the mark that was missing. Okay. So next we're going to need median to do the box and whisker plot. So the definition of the quartiles is that we're going to divide our data in 4 groups, and they're going to be containing the same number of data. So that's going to be really important. Okay, containing the same number of data. So for example here, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 marks, 11 divided by 4 is about 3, right? So that's not always easy to see when it's like that. So what I suggest you do, try to think about it. If you have 11 data, try to think about the middle here. Okay, if we have 5 on each side, okay, and we have 1 here in the middle, then it's equal. And again, if we have 5 and we want to split in the middle here, that means we're going to have 2 here on each side, and we're going to have our data here. Okay, so what we already know is the median, and then what we're going to do, we're going to take the left part and find again the middle, and then take the right part and find the middle, and that's called Q1, Q2, Q3, or in the middle you can also call it the median. And they might ask you to do a calculation that is called the interquartile range. That's the difference between Q3 and Q1. So you have to calculate Q3 minus Q1, and that's going to give you the interquartile range, which is this part here in the middle. Okay, that's 50% of your data, right? Because if you divide it in 4 equal groups, there's 25% on each part. 25, 25 here, 25 here, 25 here. Okay. So you can see what the box and whisker plot look like. You're going to need your minimum, your maximum, and those we represent them with a line. You're also going to need your Q1, Q2, Q3 as a line, and then you're going to make a box around the middle part. The middle part is 50% of our data, and then you're going to need lines on the 2 other sides. So let's look if you have to create a box and whisker plot, how you would do it. So if they're giving you the values right now, they're telling you the min, the max, Q1, Q2, Q3. So when you graph it, okay, you're going to need to identify your values because right now there's no values. So you would need to put your values. Okay, so where are we going to start with 29? Okay, could be here, 29, and we can cut the axis because we're not going by 1. And we would go by 1, so 29, 30, 31, so 31 is going to be here, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. You don't have to put all the numbers if you don't want to. You can just really put one, or you can put the first one to show us where you start, and the one next, or two next, so we know what your scale is. So your minimum, you're going to show it like this, and your maximum as well. After, you're going to draw your Q1, Q2, Q3, and you're going to make a box in the middle, and then put lines on the two sides. When you look at it, it does look like this part here is more, there's less people than this part here. But is it true that there's less people in this part here than in the other part? No, you have to remember there's the same amount in each part. There's 25% in each part. What you would say though is that in this part here, the data is more condensed, and the data here is more spread out. Okay, so now what you're gonna have to do is go get the practice worksheet and try to find the numbers that looks harder for you. And when you come back to class, we're gonna do some numbers from previous year's exams, or review numbers to wrap up everything you learn on stats. Have fun.